Welcome to the Living Spinal Podcast, where we bring you the latest news and products related to paralysis. The content you're about to watch is for mature audiences only. And now, time for the segment we've all been waiting for, sex and paralysis. But before I introduce our guest, I wanted to thank Intimate Rider for sponsoring our show. For those of you who have never heard of the Intimate Rider before, it's essentially a sex chair built to help those living with paralysis. It works for both men and women. So after the show, we'll be giving away 3 Intimate Rider sex chairs that were graciously supplied by Intimate Rider for this particular podcast. These amazing chairs go for $329 at livingspinal.com. We'll put all the details about the giveaway in our show notes. You can find these show notes at livingspinal.com/podcast. We have 3 amazingly funny and talented guests with today's show. First off, we have Ben Duffy, the creator of multiple films, including Tin Soldiers. How you doing, Ben?
Great. How's it going?
Good. And next up, we have one of Andrew's best friends, a Harley Davidson rider, and the man who coined the term sexting. What's up, Keith?
That's terrible. What's going on, guys?
Sorry. I thought you'd like it.
I'll go with it. Yeah.
Okay, just roll with it. And finally, someone we wanted to talk to for a very long time, an actress, model, and producer, Angela Rockwood. So how you doing, Angela?
Hi, you guys.
Finally got everything dialed in.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we got the videos rolling. So what we wanted to do is dive into, what Ben and Angela have been up to. And then after that, we're going to talk about sex, questions and answers. All of your questions are going to be answered. And why don't we start with Ben? What have you been up to and what's your current project?
The current project is a documentary about love and sexuality within the disabled community.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been for the last, today would be day number 8, just been going around and filming and interviewing people in the disabled community. And we're talking about love, marriage, parenting, and sexuality, and getting as deep as possible.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, and you're doing an Indiegogo to raise funds. Can you help, kind of explain it to people who've never heard about it, like what they can do to help support your efforts?
Well, yeah, I started an Indiegogo to introduce the idea of the film and to raise money for the production of the film. So that involves filming and editing and transportation and all that stuff. So it's super important. And I just believe in this project wholeheartedly, and I'm gonna be doing this for probably the next 6 months. So
that's awesome, Ben. I really love what you're doing. The subject matter that you're taking on has really never been taken on that well, or maybe really at all. When you go and try to research a little bit about it, you've got CareCure and a couple other resources via forums that people can go and reach out to and maybe read a little bit about it. But I think the gathering of minds and the information that you're going to pull out of people is conversations that a lot of people will never be able to encounter. Not only the disabled community, but also the able-bodied community that, is a big part of all of us. Most of us that are just regular old people, we don't even like to say able-bodied, disabled, that whole thing. Yeah. It's just people. And it's going to be one of those barriers that you're breaking down so that you can educate people a lot. And I truly think that you're going to create a lot of relationships due to what you're putting out there, because we have some questions later on about how, you can just call it ignorance or lack of knowledge or just the fact that maybe you haven't, you don't know a lot of people in wheelchairs or whatever. And it can put a barrier, like a dating barrier, we'll say to start. But yeah, I love what you're doing and I'm super stoked about it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've before Tin Soldiers, I never really knew anything about it. I mean, as sad as it sounds, growing up in New York City or whatever, you would see an amputee, but he was homeless, and there's this whole other world of the disabled community that I feel so grateful to have just jump right into. And thanks to Matt Hawkins, you know, and he was like, hey man, you should be a part of this. And I was like, I don't know anything about it. I'm able-bodied, but I can't wait to open up my mind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is
That's
something
awesome.
that most people need, you know?
Yeah. Sweet. And Angela, what are you up to right now? I hear you got some things that you're cooking up.
I have a lot of things I'm cooking up. There's I hope I don't start a fire in the kitchen. Right now, I'm actually shooting my show, Charlie's Angels. I did Push Girls 5 years ago. So tomorrow I'll be shooting my 3rd episode with the girls. Ati and Mia and myself had joined forces, and we're doing Charlie's Angels right now to put empowerment back out there. Especially during this time, we need it for our country. With the craziness that's going on, especially for women, men, all types of folks out there. Yeah, so that's a huge thing right now. And I'm jumping back into the industry. I took a long break for a while after doing my show. So I just met my soulmate and then build my love nest. And so now I'm jumping back into the modeling again. And
Awesome.
I'm going to tear up this industry all over and just rebrand disability in a whole new way.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I'm working on a lot right now. There's a couple other projects, but that's all top secret at the moment.
And Charlie's Angels, I love the name. Is that kind of an offshoot of Push Girls, or is it a continuation in a way, but your own twist to it? Or tell us a little bit about the storyline of the show.
It's kind of a prequel, I guess I would say, because before Push Girls, the thing is, so I did produce and I created Push Girls. A lot of people don't know this. During the time it was going on, I'm not a person to really take a lot of credit. And when we do talk shows and stuff, they're like, okay, so how'd you guys get together? Because they thought we were cast. But we actually were girlfriends before the show. I created the show. Basically, I was injured 15 years ago. And when I was on my path, my journey for a good 3 years, I met all types of people from all walks of life, whether they were losing breast to breast cancer or dealing with AIDS or going through divorce, whatever. And the one thing that I saw was that people would lose themselves from within. And I thought it was important that I put together a woman warrior team. And so when I met Ati, I met her in the hospital, my rehab facility. I met Mia here at my house during an acting class. And when we came together, I explained to the 2 girls that we needed to have a team of warriors, and to basically put the light back out there to remind others that no matter what happens in your life, you have to just push through it. And then, of course, at the time, I was thinking we need another angel. And I was looking for someone right before the show, and I found Tiffany. We met Tiffany. So I told these women, I said, you guys get ready, you know, we're going to do some big things. So when the time came, I had been approached by a friend of mine who's executive producer of Fear Factor and American Gladiator, and that's when I did Push Girls. But a lot of folks, when we did Push Girls, we did well with showing the world how our world is, but there's a lot of nitty-gritty that we left out that I wanted to show. I mean, you know, Mia, as shy as she is, she showed how she takes a shower, how she gets into the tub. I full on, like, at the time, my VSDs, Victoria's Secret Depends, I called them, you know, catheterizing to, at the time I was dating a guy. So I explained my life when I was going through my divorce and everything. But there's a lot of things that made it on the editing floor, which in Charlie's Angels, I'm planning on putting all that juiciness out there and having full control of what I want to put out there to really show the world, to put the real back into reality of what's really going on in our world. So that's basically what it's about. And it's, you know, it's the 3 of us on our wheels, like queens on their thrones, goddesses on their chariots, and we're like the superheroes on wheels. We're the 3 Charlie's Angels, and we're just going to be basically going out doing what we do just as the 3 women. I mean, Push Girls was more about our life, but this is more about what we do in the community and how we give back.
Right on. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing and getting a little more in depth there.
Yeah. So I think right now we should start asking questions, and I was hoping that Ashley, you could kick it off.
Yeah, definitely. This is a question for all of you. I guess we'll start with, did the hospital help you prepare for what sex might be like after injury? Did you have like any, notion of what the future would hold?
I'll go ahead and kick it off first. And Keith, if you want to drop in next a little bit,
Sure.
I would say that I actually attended RIC, which is Rehab Institute of Chicago, rated #1 best rehab center in the country for spinal cord injury. And literally, they didn't discuss it.
Nothing?
It was not in there at all. And I can kind of understand it, honestly, to a little bit of extent, because there are some much more pressing matters going on in those first 2 months, like, hey, how do I eat? And, oh, yeah, and maybe I want to go to the bathroom. And, yeah, it'd be nice if I could take a shower and those kind of things. And maybe sex is a little bit on the back burner at that moment. But I will tell you, though, what I learned the most when I was in rehab and from the hospital was from my roommates. So when I was first injured, I had this awesome guy, Maurice, and he's from Chicago, and he's like a baseball player, basketball player, total stud. And he was actually back for a flap surgery. So he was a couple of years out, but he was my roommate. And he was like hilarious. In fact, he said that his first experience with sex was in the hospital when he got hurt. He ended up hooking up with one of the nurses at the hospital, and he just dove right in. So there is not necessarily something to say that like there's a certain amount of time or anything like that. He literally was jumping back on the horse, to say, or maybe a horse jumping on him. I don't know, but it was an awesome roommate, and I learned a lot from him. So if you want to.
Yeah, mine was kind of similar. There was absolutely no talk of sex in the hospital. It was all, for obvious reasons. It was get your programs down, or this is kind of what life's, if they even talked about that, really about what life is going to be like.
Right.
And mine came from, luckily I did have had a good nurse. She kind of helped me through that. And my occupational therapist was I was down in New Orleans, and she was a Saint Sation, one of the Saints cheerleaders. So we got to a little bit talking while I was getting showers and stuff. So that was kind of nice. But that's about as far as mine went, though. Unfortunately, not too shabby.
A Saints cheerleader was the one giving you your showers.
Yeah, it was awesome. And
that is not fair.
I couldn't get up to use the bathroom, but I sure as hell took 2 showers a day.
Yeah, that was when you're first in the hospital. That's probably about as close to sex as you get, is the showers they give you, the sponge baths.
But yeah, there was definitely no talk about it, and it was kind of just like most of the stuff is, when you got out, you're just into the real world and figure it out for yourself. I luckily had a guy come in that was he was like I think a T12 like I am. And just kind of talked about what he does, just bring spirits up and all that. And I try to do the same thing for other people, but we might have touched on it a little bit, but really it was just kind of like, hey, you can still get out there and do stuff. And it wasn't really, sex is definitely on the back burner at the beginning.
Right.
Now, what about you, Angela?
That was the first thing I was thinking of. No, I'm kidding. No, all jokes aside, seriously, I was thinking about it, because for me as a woman, and at the time I was married, I was thinking, because I wanted to have kids, but when I got injured, I actually went to Rancho Los Amigos, which is at the time
that's a really good one. Yeah,
one of the top 5 in the nation. And so the first thing that they were telling me as a woman was just about my menstrual and things like that. They were like, you know what, we've got some news for you. You might not have your menstrual, but you could still get pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay. So the next thing was like, okay, how am I going to have sex? Like, how is this? How do we, and they did educate us, because they had a tape. And I was telling Ben this the other day, because we were doing some interviews for the documentary, and this tape was so outdated. It was like watching a Richard Simmons 70s or 80s exercise video, but they gave you an opportunity whether you wanted to watch it as a group with everybody else that was injured, or you can watch it intimately with your loved one. So we chose to watch it intimately. And it was pretty, what's the word? I wouldn't say amazing, but just interesting. And because, you just got injured, and you're seeing it, the stuff that was on this tape. I was very impressed and at the same time shocked, and because you're seeing like two paraplegics like going at it, like full on going at it. Or
Wow.
I saw like this woman, I was impressed with her. Her honey he was paralyzed. He was a quadriplegic. This guy was like 250 pounds. I think he was like a football player or something. And he was full on quad. They're butt naked in the shower. And she's like this little 120-pound woman. She like pulls him out of the shower, pushes him into the bedroom. She bends over, like plops him over, and does a full-on transfer on the bed. This guy's like a whale, just like boom, like falling on the bed. And she just like crawls on him, and then they're breaking everything down. So
Nice.
that's how I got into that's how I got my education.
Well, that's pretty awesome that they even had a training video like that. It sounds a little bit like 70s wheelchair porn or something, but
Yes.
still a really good tool, and I bet you learned a couple moves.
No, I didn't, but no.
So I'm going to dive maybe into the next question here, and I'm going to direct this at Keith first, and I'm going to say, what do you think are the biggest fears when it comes to sex and relationships that kind of go through your mind, especially when you're embarking on a new relationship?
New relationships. I'm 10 and a half years post-injury, so I'm kind of used to what's going on. But to start off, when I first got hurt, like, I lost my manhood when I got hurt. So are you going to be able to satisfy your partner when it comes to sex? That's, my biggest concern. I know now what my limitations or what I can do, or so that doesn't bother me anymore. But right off the bat, that was definitely, I think, the biggest issue. Will I be just how do you get back to normal? How do you, as normal as you can be? So
and isn't that interesting how it goes to the being able to please someone else, like how people at the core of themselves, they really are, looking out for their partner or the other person. And in like those natural instincts, like came out in you of like protecting or providing.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that's, that's male instinct too. That's, you just kind of want to, you want to be a man, so it's any shortcoming, like, and that's all of a sudden you got the biggest shortcoming you could possibly have. Like, that's a huge blow. So to figure out how to deal with that. And
awesome. Well, next
can
I'm
you
gonna
say some things about like how to deal with that? What kind of tools you've used to help others that are listening, saying, okay, what do I do?
For performance wise, getting that back. There's luckily, by the time that I got hurt, there was, the pills that have already come along, the Viagra's and the Cialis and all that. And me personally, that works great. I know a lot of guys that use shots or use pumps, any kind of device that, they can, and rings or anything to like hold an erection. Pills, I'm very fortunate. If I need them at all, they work great. I kind of just have them anyways. Like, why not? I think if I was able-bodied, I'd probably just, they're readily accessible now, so it's like I'd just be taking them anyways, just for fun. Yeah, like that's really what I like. The easiest thing, just a simple. Unfortunately, they're outrageously expensive, so I run the gauntlet and I order from like India. It's like you kind of never know what you're gonna get.
How potent those pills are.
I've never had a problem. And it's
you have an erection for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
Be alarmed.
In India.
Call a doctor in India.
24 hours. Should be that short.
Well, thank you very much, Keith. I'm going to kind of pose that question to Ben, because Ben has actually gone through and been interviewing a lot of people, and I don't know how much he talked about fears of, sexuality and relationship and whatnot. And I'd like to hear from his perspective of talking with people, maybe what he's learned in the last couple of weeks of filming.
So let's see, out of the 7 interviews that I've done, we got Keith, Angela, Spike Kane, and Patrick Iveson, I can say are like 10 times more confident than like anything I've ever heard of. Like, even 10 times more confident than me. Like, I didn't hear a strain of fear in their voice once. Like, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
It really is awesome. And you want to ask me, like, what I like have been learning is like, wow, like not everybody who goes through, you know, paralysis or whatever is just, it turns into this like huge depression, or it turns into this whole thing of fear. Like, it's, I don't know. That's what I'm so excited about, because I want a lot of people who may be going through those stages of fear to see people like them and be like, wow, like I don't have to worry too much, you know?
So confidence is key, and getting over, if they are going through any kind of fears, and just saying, hey, what do I have to lose? You know, that is probably seems like maybe the best approach.
Yeah, I mean, again, you would have to ask them that, because I'm not in that situation. But that, as far as from what the perspective that I've gained, that is great. What I can say. Yeah, which is perfect. Amazing for the film. You know,
I think it's like anything. You got to be ready to fail in order to find out what works. And when I was working with Ben, I told him that whether it's, you know, a long-term relationship or somebody new, like if they're there with you, they kind of know that something's going to be different than if they had an able-bodied partner. So anybody that I've come across, they're kind of like ready for trying something out. Something's going to be different. Like,
yeah. And I think that a lot of people, it's like curiosity kind of kills the cat. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a bar, and this is usually when it's later on in the night or something like that, and the girls start asking, does it work? You know, does it work? Yeah. And they're like really curious. Like, I know that you're in a wheelchair and things must be a little different. Like, they want to know, like, can you have sex? You know, and so there is definitely some crazy curiosities. Now, David, I know you've got a question that you want to ask.
Well, yeah, I was wondering, this is obviously coming from a point of ignorance, which is why we have this podcast in the first place. But what's common for the amount of things that you could feel? You know, what kind of feeling can you get, and what's I know that there's a whole spectrum of people who have full on no feeling at all, and then some people have a little bit on the right side, and so on. But what's common, and what kind of advice would you give people across the whole spectrum?
I'd love to pose that to Angela first.
Oh, wow. Okay. Ben and I were talking about this the other day. Everybody is different. That's the thing. And it's so funny how people out there, they instantly, oh my God, you're paralyzed. You probably don't feel down there, whatever. But no, that's not the case for some of my friends. Yes, some of my friends don't feel. Of course, when I was injured, I felt nothing. When I got paralyzed, when I first was paralyzed, I felt nothing. I could not feel anything from the neck down. And I actually left the country and had a stem cell surgery 3 years after I was paralyzed. So that brought a lot of sensation back. And as of orgasms, things like that, I didn't have a problem with it before, don't have a problem with it now. And I was actually explaining to Ben that there's actual studies that women with spinal cord injuries, some of them, the ones that can feel or who have a spinal cord injury, there's like a hypersensitivity that when the penis enters the vagina, like it's like, whoa, what is that? What's going on? It's like your body goes into like a shock of trying to figure out what's going on. And as crazy as it's going to sound, like it's almost like you have an orgasm within the first 2 to 3 minutes because of the oversensitivity. Ashley's eyes are like all big and everything. For me, I just, when I tell friends and stuff like that, it's just all about the connection and stuff. So if you can't feel down there, then, you know, there's other ways that you can connect and feel. It's not all about all physical feel. So yeah, so everyone's different.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing and getting pretty in depth there.
Yeah, well,
I just want to say that during Spike Kane's interview, he was saying, you know, a lot of, because I would ask him about that, and he was just he gave a much more sensitive approach to it, and it was like, you know, just the feeling of being with a woman and, you know, having the energy of her, and that connection is so moving and so touching as it is, that that's enough sensation for me, you know. And that was so interesting to hear. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost like people who have some limitation, like they can't see that well, their ears are stronger, right? They have that hypersensitivity, like what Angela was talking about.
That's exactly what Ben and I were talking about. I said, I feel that women that are paralyzed or that have a disability are a little more heightened and more aware than, I'm not saying that they're better in bed because they're disabled, but because you are forced in this position to really concentrate and focus, you are a little more sensitive and more in tune when making love, if that makes any sense, than the average woman that's just going to lay there and just be like, all right, let's do this, where you can have a better connection, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, but also in a spiritual sense.
Yeah, and I've definitely heard, you know, over and over again, and through my own experimentation and whatnot, how people will definitely find a different area, and the ears or the back of the neck, or like, you know, along their pelvis line, or different things, wherever they maybe, if they don't have lower sensation, where they do have sensation, that they can get like to the point of orgasm just from, you know, working those areas and touching and different sensations. And Ben, I think your point of, you know, just being together, you know, with someone else and being vulnerable and naked and whatever, it's an incredible thing. You know, you're sharing what you don't share with anyone else. And those are the moments that can create what is intimacy, sex, relationship, and all those different things. So, and then Keith, we've got you.
My look on that? Yeah, I obviously, like I said, when I got hurt, I lost my manhood. I lost the ability to orgasm. So I had to find other ways to orgasm, and it all is in sensuality, the touch, the intimacy of being with somebody. I do come across, you know, the couple of girlfriends that I've had, they're overly worried about not satisfying me because I can't ejaculate. So that puts a big riff off the bat, and I have to explain to them that, like, that doesn't matter to me anymore. Like, I've found my way to climb, you know, the orgasm, to be right there with her. Like, I found my own way. And then, you know, obviously we talk about that, but I know that's definitely a huge issue for the able-bodied women that I'm with. They feel like they can't, you know, get me off. So, you know, that kind of puts a big riff right off the bat. But
and I can see how that would be difficult from their side too, because, you know, being someone that was 25 years of life as able-bodied and, you know, with women and such beforehand, there is a big part of that climax of the male, you know, ejaculation or whatever. Sometimes that kind of is like, and that's the show.
Yeah.
It's at some points, you know, it obviously doesn't need to be the end of the show, but it does end up being a little bit of like, all right, we just had sex. And so to not have that like closure or that kind of moment of eruption is the word I want to use, but that sounds a little crazy. Maybe it's right. But anyways, you know, it's a tough thing for the woman too.
I'd like to say something after Keith is done about that.
No, it was just, that's definitely been a big issue, that, you know, the women feel like they can't please me. I've come across that. And then obviously that changes in after, right away, that usually changes.
I mean, I've been roommates with Keith, so I've heard women please him. So women out there that are listening to this podcast, you should know that it is totally 100% possible. Angela, what did you want to say?
No, I'm listening to you guys because it's very interesting. I'm going to say this on it's not really a holistic level, but with the American, I guess you'd say in the American society, you are not brainwashed, but you're conditioned to believe that if a guy ejaculates, like obviously they're going to get off and they feel good, but it's like, oh, I did my job, or oh, I did a great job, or we had a great sex because he came, or whatever. But what's funny is when you're talking about that, because the way you've been conditioned that, or even a woman that you're with, they're thinking that, oh, if he comes, I'm thinking about this because when I first got with my ex, he's Vietnamese, whatever, but he was studying the Tao of sexology, and it's a whole Eastern way of looking at making love, where the guy actually, he holds his ejaculation because it actually helps with the body and everything. And then of course it allows you to go longer, where the woman can have like 7 to 8 to 9 orgasms. And in the book of the Tao of Sexology, it explains that all the different levels of orgasm that the woman reaches from 1 to 2 to 3, it actually conditions and helps certain organs of the body. So with the man, that's considered his quote unquote chi, his semen is his chi, or whatever is qigong. So by him holding the ejaculation, it's like he's extending his lifeline or his life force or whatever it is. So what's funny is when I first got with my ex and we had like amazing, incredible sex, and then he didn't ejaculate, like he was holding it. I was like for me, I was like, is something wrong? Did I not do something right? And he's like, no. And then he explained this Tao of sexology to me. I started to read about it. I started to study about it. And then later throughout the relationship, when he did ejaculate, I was like, why did you come? Like, why did you hold it? What happened? And he's like, I couldn't help it. It felt good or whatever. But it's just funny how you guys are talking about that whole idea of having to ejaculate to know that, you felt good or whatever, because a guy doesn't always have to ejaculate. He can still have his orgasms without ejaculating. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just
Absolutely.
I 100% do.
A different way of looking at things, just like what Keith was saying, and the guy friend that you guys had that said, or Ben had interviewed that said, it's all about just the connection. So. Well,
it sounds like Keith is incredible at holding it, so I'm guessing he's really good in bed.
You're gonna live a long time, Keith.
A long time.
He's gonna have a lifetime of chi.
There's not enough hours in the night.
Your chi force is strong. I just wanted to say that, if it's cheesy or whatever, but it's just the way they are conditioned to look at things. And
yeah, absolutely.
If you change your perception, it just helps things out a bit.
Ashley, I know that you're kind of itching to ask a question as well. So
I mean, along the same lines, same topic, different, I guess, sex aids. Like, is there different ones for male, female, or can you all, work the intimate writer, or do you prefer not to use something like that? What do you use in the bedroom?
Yeah, why don't we start with Ben? Like, have you heard anybody during your interviews talking about that?
Yeah, Keith.
There we go. So from the horse's mouth, I guess. Keith is here. Let's hear it.
I'll tell you what, I like I said, I've been paralyzed for 10.5 years, and I knew when I got paralyzed in the hospital, that was the first thing on my mind. So like I said, I lost my manhood. I want to figure out, I want sex was right away. And since there was nobody to tell you what to do, luckily I got an engineer mind. You figure it out. I have a few things in my room. Through the years, I've had some things that I just like, this is a great idea, and I hooked it up or whatever. And it's
like what things?
It wasn't a great idea.
Sex swing.
Yeah.
Like I had like
I
tried the sex swing, of course, and I was like,
sure.
I got a free pass on. I can order one and not feel like ashamed about it. Anyway, so
it's been in your Amazon cart for like 4 months.
Exactly, it's just been sitting there, and but I've come up with I've taken a disabled bar, like a 4-foot long bar, and I mount it to a piece of wood, make
handrail,
made it look all nice. Yeah, a handrail, and I put it at the head of my bed, and I mean it kind of looks like a headboard almost. It kind of like blends into the whole
like
decor of the
industrial
room.
modern look.
But that bar helps me on both ways. If I'm underneath, you can get leverage and pull into it, or if I want to be on top, I can actually support myself with that bar and push up. And mount them at different levels. If this one doesn't work, move it up to another level. I've definitely, I have a hook in my ceiling that can interchange whatever I can come up with to think of to use from there. I don't know. I've tried a bunch of different things, and some things work, some things don't. I haven't tried the intimate rider, other than just sitting on it over at Living Spinal, checking it out, laughing. I think it would be awesome. But I've used something, similar to it, and those devices work great. Anything you can get a motion that helps your motion.
Yeah, and I'll pick up on that a little bit. So basically, I do have an intimate rider, and they are sponsoring the show today, and obviously we do want to talk about it. I'm not just talking about it because they sponsor the show. I literally have had one for a long time and do use it. It's an awesome device. Basically, if you can imagine an ottoman that swivels, those rocking chairs. So it's basically one of those, but it's got angled cambered legs, so it's really supportive. It's got a very shallow seat so that your boys are exposed. They're not like, you're not sitting back in a chair, so they're ready to rock and roll. And then it has a backrest, so you have support and you're comfortable. And then I think one of the best things you can get along with it is called the Rider Mate. Or they also have like some cushions and stuff, but it allows for your partner to be at the same height and the proper level, so that everything is lined up properly for logistics reasons. And it's so cool, because one of the hardest things for a man, at least, and Angela, we can hear your perspective on this too, but it is you lose the ability to be on top, and a lot of sex is usually not everybody's, but a lot of times it's a man on top. And so with a spinal cord injury, with your legs paralyzed and stuff, you're using your legs in an enormous amount, and you don't even realize how much you are. And so to try to stay on top and be on top, it's like try to keep a boner while you're bench pressing 200 pounds. It's like you're working so hard that it's a little bit hard to keep the erection. And so that's why some of these pills and different things can really come into place for people. And so the intimate rider, you're comfortable, you're in a seated position, but your partner can lay on their stomach or their back or whatever. And then you can just rock in the chair just like this, and it allows you to give
it's super lightweight too. And that's definitely, because I've actually tried before. I mean, I never tried the intimate rider, but I've used one of those glider ottomans, and you run into all those problems you're talking about. It's not shallow enough, so you're crushing your boys. Yeah. It's heavy, so you're not going to put it. You can't just, you have to put it out in the living room, where the intimate rider you can like put up on the bed, or you can move it around.
Yeah, most people just like, in their bedroom on the floor there. And what's sweet is that it completely folds, and so does the Rider Mate. So it all goes into my closet or under the bed. I've stored it in both places depending on where I've lived and stuff like that. So you can totally put it away, because you don't want, come on, we're normal people. We have people at our house. We like to get the tour, right? Like, hey, this is our house. Come on in. Let me show you my room. Oh my God.
Here's
sorry.
The closet where the intimate rider
that's mine.
It's like
mine's out for the open.
Well,
I just I'm paralyzed. What are you gonna do? Yeah, I try to make it look like exercise equipment.
Oh, yeah, go sit on that.
Just do it. Just working out.
You do work out, yeah. So I think that it is an incredible tool, and more so even for my partner than it is for me. Like, it's awesome because I totally feel on top again, but it's even, I think, better for my partner because they are getting that experience of being on the bottom again. Whereas I think a lot of able-bodied lovers that are with people with spinal cord injuries, they end up being on top more than they would have had the relationship not been able-body. where you might switch around a little more. And so these are serious things, and these are real things. And when you talk to people and you say, hey, when was the last time you had sex on top, or whatever, if they don't have a tool like the intimate rider, they're going to go, I've been doing the side bang, since I got hurt, and that's all I got, or whatever it may be. And so it's an incredible tool, and I think that I wish everybody had one.
Angela, do you have any recommendations for women?
I'm just listening to you guys. Like, paralysis made you an interior decorator or something.
Right.
Now, right? Oh my gosh. Oh, where do I start? Wow, I want to see this intimate rider now. I actually was Googling it. I wanted to see what it looked like and how it. Oh wow, I want to check it out. You guys know I was married, so married to dating to now in a new relationship, and it, like Ben and I were talking, it all depends on the guy. Because some guys like to play with equipment and toys, and some guys, they don't care for it. But when I came out of my divorce, I started to explore, and I was like, I want to get in certain positions. I want to figure this all out. It's like being like a virgin all over again. So I was at the Hustler store every week, whatever, trying to buy this and that and all kinds of gadgets. And at the time it was the Liberator, the ramp. It's like the Liberator, the ramp with the little wedge.
Yeah, and that's a great one that works with
it's comfortable. It works. I mean, depending what position you want, whether you want to just missionary or in doggy style or on your side or do a photo shoot or whatever. But my honey now, he doesn't care for any. You guys can go in my closet right now. I can just give them all away, all the toys that are in there. But I do want to check out this intimate rider. So, is it allow the person to be on top if you're paralyzed?
So,
or the woman just laying on her back, or how does this thing work?
She's laying on a you call it a cot, okay, or the Liberator, or she could be on the Liberator in front, and he's sitting on this chair that oscillates.
Oh, so it's two. Okay, I see.
Two separate pieces.
Okay. I understand.
Okay, and so you're not in bed; you're on these two pieces of furniture.
Just stay in a wheelchair. That's what we do.
Yeah.
The wheelchair back, you can bounce like that too. No, just kidding.
Well, it's tough because your wheelchair is so deep and you're not really supported sitting on the edge, and it's really tall. So you need something really tall. Whereas with the cot, you can hold on to the cot and just use your arms to do all of the motion, and it's
effortless.
It's really effortless,
and the person does not go down.
It's pretty awesome. But another one that's pretty interesting, and I think Living Spinal is going to look into becoming a distributor for it, is called the Body Bounce. And so anybody that's listening to this, you should definitely check out like Body Bounce. You might have to put in like
Don't
Body
Google
Bounce.
it at work.
Yeah, don't Google it at work, but Body Bounce sex chair or something like that. And basically, if you can imagine a trampoline with a hole in it, that's what it is.
Ben's face is all super close to the camera.
Yeah, that's because he's looking it up right now. So
I got to do my research.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, your partner with the penis would usually be underneath, and then the girl could go on top and bounce on this trampoline with a hole in it.
I need to see this thing.
I just want to say,
I'm Googling it right now.
I want to say that I feel like there's probably more imagination in the disabled community with sex than there is with your average guy. I mean, it's just got to be like that. Like, I don't know, man. It's just like, it seems like with regular guys, it's like, I mean, I'm for girls, but it's like the same 4 positions every time. And I bet you, I mean, I have to do this. I have to explore this on camera, but I have to show like all the possible positions that able-bodied people don't know about, and they don't. I guess they don't have to know about it, but they're going to know after this documentary.
I hope you name these things like the British Bulldog or like the Wild Turkey or something.
The British Bulldog.
People need to be able to refer to these positions.
It's actually awesome when you get the intimate rider. It comes with a big sheet of paper with like 24 positions on it that you can do on the thing.
Damn.
It's like her upside down, her on top, her this way, this way.
Well, I don't know how comfortable that thing is is it comfortable like the fabric? Because you were asking.
It's like a normal seat sling kind of for a wheelchair, and then you can purchase a padded seat as well with a cover to it. So
That's
that
important
throw
for
that
like
in the wash.
your swords, things like that. If your partner's like rough, you know.
No, yeah, it can be padded if you have a rough partner. No problem.
So, but you're asking me what I can suggest for women, but I mean, all I know is like the Liberator. But you guys are saying this body balance and this intimate rider, so I'm gonna have to check it out, and then I'll come back to you guys and tell you if it really works.
Well, Angela, we are giving away 3 intimate riders.
Really?
So, when you're listening to this podcast, you'll find out how you can do that at the end of it. And so you too should be entering to win some of these sponsored.
I will,
riders.
and Ben might record it for the documentary.
Yeah, I wish we had it today.
Just run down to Living Spinal and go grab our demo unit.
Yeah.
Maybe throw a sheet on it or something.
Oh my God.
So, David, I think you have another question coming up.
Actually. I was wondering, obviously there's like little tools that you can use, but is there particular positions that make the most sense for you that you're like kind of go to most of the time? I guess we could start with Keith if you're comfortable.
Go-to positions?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's whatever you go with the flow for me. I'm fortunate enough that I do have enough function that I can get on top. I have enough arm strength that I can hold myself up. I don't have any glutes or quads, but I have enough control over my bones that I can, I can definitely get in the back and put weight on either the bar that I have or, her back. And I can be on top, I can be underneath. We can be yin-yang, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's no go-to position. It just it all depends in the moment for me. And
I think for a lot of males, Keith, I would say, is an incredible able spinal cord injury, which is fantastic. But there are a lot of people out there that, their mobility is far less. And especially like your quadriplegics and paras that are complete and have very little core function. There's just a huge variety. That's what's crazy about spinal cord injury and disability in general, and that everybody is so different. But I think that a lot of people do end up using kind of a side approach, and I think can be kind of a favorite. I personally would say that absolutely using the intimate rider is my favorite. I feel the most comfortable, and I feel the most, like Keith was saying in the beginning, a man again, because to me it was kind of like being on top and being a man or whatever, and it gives me that back. So I'll throw out that's kind of my favorite. Angela.
And then Angela, what do you have to say?
There's so much I want to say.
Good. People need to hear it.
Well, I don't know if people know, but I am a quadriplegic. So it just like you said, you guys are saying it all depends on how much movement or how much strength you have. I'm pretty strong, but I do have spasms. So again, I'm just saying this out there. I mean, I'm with my love now, but just dating and everything, it just all depends on the guy, how strong the guy is and how adventurous he is and how his imagination can take over. So if he wants me on top, it just all depends on his strength, or if he's sitting on a chair, he pulls me on top of him, or whether it's in the bed. But the go-to position, the easiest, is missionary, where you just grab the legs and hold the legs up, because I'm able to hold my legs. But if you're on your side, like someone said, the side, whether it's from behind or intimately, for me, because I love to be very close, it's just on the side and up close and just intimate, like the baby, like the fetal position, I guess you would say. I mean, one leg can be up or both legs can be up. I'm pretty flexible, so it just all depends on the person. But the go-to is, I guess you say missionary or the side, the fastest. If you're doing a quickie or whatever, just all depends. Or you can stay on your side and be comfortable and go for an hour, whatever. So yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you for sharing all that.
Just Giving some details, that's all.
Absolutely.
That's what we'll need. So
Was that
David,
good?
you want me to move on to my next question?
unless you want to talk about that.
No. Well, I already did, so I'm going to continue on. The next question we got here is, how long into your injury do you feel like you were ready, or that most people are ready to have sex again? And I'll throw it at Keith.
How long into the injury?
Yeah.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
Like I said, right away. For me, as long as the pain, like I was in a bad motorcycle accident, so I broke everything. So as soon as I could, I couldn't cough without being in pain. So the minute that I could get past that and just the injuries that are healed, I was ready right away. I did have a girlfriend at the time. That lasted, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. That didn't last, that was over 6 months, after the accident. But we definitely, as soon as I could, we tried. I believe, because like I said, I lost everything right off the bat, from like midway down, which, over the years came back. But
Yeah.
somebody in the hospital had given me, I think it was a Cialis or something like that. And we tried that right off the bat. And so I was right away.
I think that's going to be the answer for most people is like, hey, because it's on your mind, you're in the hospital for 2 months. It's pretty hard to have sex in the hospital. I mean, that's not true, but certainly it's just like there are people coming in and out. You're sharing rooms, like all these different things. So I think that a lot of people, by the time they get out, they're ready to roll and they want to start trying and experimenting and seeing how they can get back to life. We've got Ben and Ashley and David here, and all three of these individuals have actually been pushed into, or not pushed, but they've chosen and have somehow their life has guided them into being a part of the disabled community. Ashley's and David's is through working with Living Spinal. You guys have learned a lot about the community, but look back at when you had not met any of us and you didn't know anything really for the most part, and you were kind of, and I'm going to say ignorant, but I hate that word, is a little harsh, but in a general way of some sort, you were a little bit ignorant about this whole community and some of their struggles and some of their successes and some of their beauties and some of their uglinesses and all these different things that are encapsulated in disability. And be honest, like, what were your views kind of towards the wheelchair community? Like, had you ever posed yourself in a relationship with somebody in a wheelchair? And then now, as that so much and you've been so ingrained into this community and you're a part of a podcast about sex right now for wheelchair disability, what is the different, how do you look at it? I'm going to throw it at Ashley first.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I feel like I have a little bit different perspective because I grew up with my grandma being quadriplegic. So I was always around it, and I was fairly comfortable, but I had no idea how the intimacy aspect worked. Like, I was never going to ask her. So that was foreign to me and until pretty much this podcast. And now it just doesn't seem as intimidating now that I know, it's just like a normal relationship. You got to feel comfortable, and hell, like I wouldn't count someone out because if they had an injury or paralysis.
And what about Bumble and some of these websites? Like you had mentioned something the other day. You want to go on that a little bit? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I swiped right on a few wheelchair guys.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like they. It seems like everyone's pretty transparent, at least on Bumble. I don't know about Tinder, but yeah, they're pretty transparent. They'll have pictures of themselves in chairs. And I live in a small town, so really you only have like 2 or 3, But yeah, I was like, hey, I'd give it a chance.
And do you think that is from the experience now? And so like that before and after that I was kind of asking about, do you feel like, oh, but you said you with your grandma, you had kind of an experience.
Yeah, I had, and in a way it was almost like, I don't know, a deterrent, because I just saw how hard it is. And at least with her, she was really like severely injured, and her life was pretty much a struggle. But, you know, at the same time, like she was remarried, and, you know, it wasn't that bad. Like, so it gave me a lot of perspective, but I didn't really get that educated until working for Living Spinal, and just like, you know, it's just an everyday thing, and it's not really an anomaly to me anymore.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And Ben, what about you? You had said like, hey, someone kind of drew you in and said, you need to take advantage and capture this. So tell us about your before and after and your thoughts on like relationship with someone, and would that be something you would ever pose? Or?
Yeah, I mean, with Tin Soldiers, I don't know, man. He asked me to do it, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I went for it, and I'm a much better person from it, you know. And as far as this film goes, my friend AJ, who has a very, very, very severe case of cerebral palsy, he just said, he gave me the idea to do it. And Angela always pushed me to do it too. She, you know, every time I was hesitant about getting into it, which I was for a good 6 months, really committing to it, she would always, you know, make sure that I was on track and that I was going to do it. Yeah. So the question is you're asking me, would I date someone who's in a wheelchair? Is that what
Well, it's that, and it's kind of like the difference between Ben before he had all this knowledge he has now, and Ben and his mindset, you know, and the honesty of it. Yeah.
I really knew nothing. I started Tin Soldiers when I was 24. So I was pretty young and never been exposed to any of it. And now I can honestly say that, like, I'm most happiest when I'm hanging out with people with disabilities. I don't know why.
That's awesome.
No, wow. It's true. You want honesty, like that is honesty. I mean, of course, I have my best friends who make me really happy too. But like the day that I went to Kansas City to film the Adaptive Skate Collective skate clinic, WCMX clinic, I don't know. There was just something that changed in me. I was I was a filmmaker in the skateboarding industry for a long time. Well, not a long time, but maybe like 5 years or so. And I was like, man, this is my way out. This is my way into a world where people, it's such a down-to-earth community from what I've experienced. And everybody has been so nice to me, and that means a lot. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And that's why for so long, after I finished Tin Soldiers, you know, I didn't think about making another feature-length film for a year, you know, and at least I didn't commit to it until a year later. Luckily, I got hired by UCAN, so that kept me in the disabled community. But yeah, man, it's just been the biggest. It's been the all-time blessing of my life for sure. And
well, thank you for that perspective. That's awesome.
Yeah. And would I date someone in a wheelchair? Right now, I'm just so heartbroken about the girl who just dumped me 3 days ago. So it's hard for me to dating anybody else.
Let's call her. We got her on the phone. Let's go.
Second date update.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Angela about this the other day when I was doing her interview. We talked about atrophy, which is a huge issue for you know, as far as body image goes with able-bodied and disabled people. I was talking to Keith about it too. I honestly would have to really say to myself, Ben, you have to get outside yourself and really try something new. It's not something I've ever experienced anywhere close. So the short answer is yes, I would, but I wouldn't do it just because like especially now in my situation, I've been around so much of it, and I don't want people to be like, oh, well, you've been around it so much, but you never tried it. Like, what's your problem? You know, like that's kind of what's going on in my head right now, especially since I'm the guy making a documentary on love and sexuality within the disabled community.
Yeah.
So I'm not like being like a method director or anything and like, oh, I got to have sex with a girl in a wheelchair. But no, I mean,
Leonardo DiCaprio would do it, dude.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, you got to get into the part.
Yeah, no. So I'm totally open to it, but the same way that I'd be open to having sex with any girl, she would have to woo me just with her personality, and I would have to be attracted to her, and that's first and foremost. So,
I'm going to kind of talk about this a little bit. It's interesting. I have a bunch of friends that basically, I have a ton of able-bodied friends, and I have a ton of friends in wheelchairs, and I've created even more than I think most people in wheelchairs because of my situation with owning Living Spinal and stuff like that. But it's really interesting to me that for some reason, a lot of my single able-bodied friends have been, in a way, kind of drawn towards some of the women in wheelchairs because they know me so well, and because they've been a part of my life, and they understand like the simple like differences that go on within someone with a disability. That stuff is already, they know it, so they already feel kind of in, and they're like, I would totally, and then I think the other part is that they are such kind-hearted people that they look at it as, God, I hope that beautiful girl, just because she's in a wheelchair, doesn't like have a hard time with relationships, and like there's no reason that she should be single in a perfect normal world or whatever. And is she single right now because other guys aren't manly enough or understandable enough or whatever it may be to date her? And I think some of my friends have like been like, I want to be the one that dates her because she's beautiful and I understand disability. And I've just seen that like over and over, and I think it's so interesting. I don't know. It's like that sometimes once people understand and are part of the disabled community, they kind of get drawn in. There's this interesting thing about a different world that you maybe want to be a part of it.
So how old are those friends that you're talking about? I'm just curious because
in their 20s, like
okay,
mid to late 20s.
All right, well then I have no excuses. I mean, I'm 27. I thought you were going to say like 30s and 40s when the longer, the more time a guy has to mature in their life and grow out of the conditioning that we've grown up in with, like, oh, who's the hottest girl on MTV when you're 11 years old, and then oh, who's the hottest girl in high school, and yada yada, all that bullshit. It's like we all want to grow out of that, I hope. So that's why I asked that.
Right. And I think we all just want to find somebody that loves us as much as we love them. Yeah. And we get to experience life in a wonderful way. So I guess the next one is David. You've been working for Living Spinal for quite a while, and I think due to it, and you can share any other experiences you have, you've really learned a ton, and the blinders have been pulled aside, and you understand all the ins and outs between meeting me and Keith and Adam and, all these like great, normal, awesome people.
Yeah, you guys are all normal and super awesome. I'm glad you said that. I would say that before I was not thinking about people in wheelchairs because I was so obsessed with my own stuff. Like I was really into riding BMX, riding motorcycles. I just didn't have any space in my brain to think about it. And I didn't know anybody either that was in a wheelchair. And that wasn't on purpose or anything. It was just, it wasn't a situation that came in front of me in my life. Now being married for over 10 years, if my wife became disabled, I'd feel way more comfortable in like what the next steps are to help her and to help myself. But yeah, I have learned a lot, and the difference really, how I've seen it is like, yeah, I've known that people have had a wide variety of disabilities and paralysis before I started, you know, living in this community. But now I see that, like what Keith has mentioned, there's little tricks that you can do to help yourself through little situations where before, you know, I hadn't even thought about that. It's just like, oh, well, you can't move really. But then Keith, you know, if you're working out like what Keith does and you get all ripped and you're strong and you can lift yourself up and move your body around and, you know, you're essentially like he said, manipulating his bones. So your joints are used more as like pivot points as opposed to using muscle to move your legs and stuff. It's just kind of, there's different ways of accomplishing almost the same goal. So that's been helpful to see. And I think we've come really to the end of it. It's already been quite a while since we started this. Does anybody else have one last thing they want to say before we close this out?
I have a little bit of one thing, just real quick, that kind of bounces off of what you just said, David. And I love how you said, well, I feel super prepared if my wife was now to go, you know, under some sort of crazy injury or whatever and become a disabled person. And the statistics that I kind of saw when I first was injured, and people were like really warning me about this because I was in a relationship, and it is a staggering, like around 5% that stay together with their wife, girlfriend, whatever it is, when they get injured. And so I think a podcast like this, or, you know, people just learning about stuff like this, that it could be incredibly powerful for them to help be comfortable enough to continue on a relationship that was always, the love was there, and the difficulties that can go on in the beginning, like, shouldn't happen. And so I love that you said that. I think that's really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ben, did you have one last thing too?
Yeah, if there's one last thing I can say, it's just simply for the people who are watching this, feel free to contact me, because I need to know, I need to interview a quadriplegic couple, so 2 people who are quadriplegics, because I don't have that, and I don't have that on my radar right now. And
that's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, it's exactly, and I have to tackle that issue. So yeah, just my email is benduffypresents@gmail.com. If anybody out there knows anybody, just please feel free to write me.
Right on. Yeah. If I can think of anything, Ben, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and tackling some of these like really tough conversations and different things. We actually have tons more questions and stuff, but of course, you know, there's only so much time, and I really appreciate the time that you guys have given us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And for all of those people that are listening, be sure to jump over to livingspinal.com for today's show notes. And also, you can order all your medical supplies through Living Spinal. And when you do that, we actually donate a portion of every order to paralysis research. So it's actually making a difference in your life, whether you know it or not. We will also have the details on the Intimate Rider giveaway. So stay tuned for that, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.
All right.
All right.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, bye. Thanks a lot.
All right.